So this morning we start a new series, a series that is based on a book written by Frank Ostaseski, and the book is The 5 Invitations. How many of you are familiar with the book, The 5 Invitations? It's a really beautiful book. I was thinking about it this morning. You know, the Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The 4 Agreements, became such an incredibly successful book, and people really latched onto that, and I think that those 4 agreements are powerful. I think this is every bit as powerful in a different kind of way, and in some ways, I dare say, maybe a little bit deeper. Frank Ostaseski is the founder of the Zen Hospice Project in San Francisco, and this book, The 5 Invitations, is a result of his sitting with hundreds of hospice patients as they were leaving this physical form. And the things that he learned as a result of sitting with these folks as they were making their transition. Some of you in this room, like myself, perhaps online as well, have been called into that kind of service before. It's one thing to be in service to someone who is passing that is a family member. That brings up a whole other array of feelings and depth. And there's a different experience when you're sitting with somebody who's not a relative, certainly another human being, but not a biological relative. There's a certain something that you feel in that experience, and a deepening, I think, of understanding and the value of life itself. Frank says of these 5 invitations, they are 5 bottomless practices that can be continually explored and deepened, and I think he's right. They have little value as theories. To be understood, they have to be lived into and realized through action. That's very much our 5th unity principle, that it's not enough to know spiritual teachings and practices and ideas. We must actually live them out in the day-to-day existence of our lives. He says, an invitation is a request to participate in or attend a particular event. The event is your life. And this book, or these 5 invitations, are for you to be fully present for every aspect of your life. I have on the shelf in my study at home a little gift that my mother gave me many years ago. And I love to look up at it and remind myself of the importance of it. It says, "You may not know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory." Doesn't that touch you? You may not know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. We may not know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Sogyal Rinpoche said, whatever we have done with our lives makes us what we are when we die. Whatever we have done with our lives makes us what we are when we die, and everything, absolutely everything counts. Oh my goodness. Everything, absolutely everything counts. I think it's true that in many ways, the experience of a deeper, more authentic life starts at the moment of death, and not our own death, but starts at the moment that we attend the service, the celebration of life of somebody that we cared about. And what happens in that experience for most people, and through my many years now as a minister, I've led many celebration of life services and have witnessed and felt in the room what happens as people are sitting there. And invariably, in addition to paying love and respect and honoring the person who has passed, you can feel in the room the energy of people reflecting deeply on their own life and how they are living their life now. And that is the gift of understanding death. It brings into sharper focus for us our own mortality. And when we look at that with clearer eyes, we understand this so much more clearly. We understand that we may not know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. It's a mistake for us to think that of time as an infinite resource, because it's not. It is not. Our time in this body, in this incarnation, is not infinite. It has an expiration date. I hope for all of us in this room and online that expiration date is a long way from now. Yeah, but there is one. There is one. And so in these 5 invitations, Frank invites us to step into some of the wisdom that he found sitting with people as they were facing the end of their own lives. And the first invitation is the invitation, don't wait. Don't wait. Say that with me. Don't wait. Don't wait. It's the invitation to live with immediacy. We so often spend our lives waiting for the perfect moment, the next milestone, or for things to change. And if we are students of spiritual understanding, what we realize is that impermanence is the absolute truth. That this is the only moment that we have, that everything is changing forever in a state of change. And when we embrace that more consciously and understand it more deeply, we recognize that it's an invitation to us to use wisely this moment, to use wisely this moment to love, to learn, to grow, to care, to be about good. And so there are 5 ideas I want to share with you from this idea of don't wait. Don't wait. And the first is the myth of the perfect condition. Say that with me. The myth of the perfect condition. People tend by nature to be chronic postponers. We tell ourselves, I'll focus on my relationship after I get this part of my life in order. I'll focus on my health once I've achieved this thing over here. I'll focus on my meditation practice or my spiritual life once all of this is lined up. We tend to put too much, really, of what is important on hold. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. We need to remember, we need to realize that life is only happening now. In this tiniest slice of now. I mean, grasp that for a moment. To me, it's profound. It's profound. Is it not so easy to spend a lot of this tiny slice of now thinking about yesterday, or last year, or last week, or thinking about tomorrow or next week or next month, or to really savor this slice, this moment of now, to be present, to not be waiting for the perfect conditions to do whatever is ours to do in this now moment, to savor this now moment. When we don't, it's a little bit like the surfer, and I don't surf. I've skied, and I ski and I skate, but I don't surf. My son is starting to get into surfing, and I know plenty of surfers. And what I know is it's a little bit like being out in the ocean, and you're just waiting for that absolutely perfect wave. And meanwhile, there are hundreds of really decent waves that you're letting go by because you're waiting for that perfect one, and you're freezing in the water while you're waiting. And you're getting exhausted in the water while you're waiting. You haven't savored what's right there before you because we're postponing. We're waiting for the perfect condition, the perfect condition. Second, I started to touch upon it earlier, is really embracing and understanding as deeply as we can the importance of the idea of impermanence. Whether we accept it or not, it's a reality. When we accept it, when we understand it, I think we can better work with it. Impermanence, to me, is a catalyst. It's not a threat. It's a catalyst. You know, in our culture, we view death and change in a very limited way, almost as enemies to be conquered, when they can, in fact, be a catalyst for our change and for our growth. Death is the very thing that gives life its value. Think about that for a moment. The idea that there will be a time that we're no longer here. And I don't mean to sound negative about it. I mean this in a very positive way. The idea that that is true is potentially such a powerful catalyst for us to really love and embrace and cherish who we are, what we have, where we are, what we can do right now. Right now. Impermanence as a catalyst and not a threat. I remember, I think it was in San Francisco I saw this. It was at some expedition in association with the Association for Global New Thought. We were in this large, beautiful lobby of a hotel or conference center, and there was a group of invited traveling monks from Tibet who were building a beautiful sand mandala on the ground. And if you've ever seen that kind of work, it's an inspiration just to watch the meticulousness of what they do. They have these vials, hundreds of different vials of different colored sand. And the sand is put in this vial, and at the end of the vial is just a very tiny opening, like a funnel, but a very, very, very fine funnel. And the vial is filled with a particular color of sand, and the monks will take the vial with the funnel end down, the open end down, and use it as if they are painting with the colored sand these intricate designs. They are absolutely breathtaking, and I believe the one that we were witnessing took several days to complete. So the image of the beauty of this art is really clear in my mind, and I remember standing there watching them do this. This did not happen on the occasion that I was there, but on a similar occasion where these monks were creating a mandala like this for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. There was a woman who was watching the monks do this, because crowds gather around to watch. And for whatever reason, she went a little crazy in the mind, and she ran through the mandala. But you want to know what the monks' reaction was? So the security guards, do you think the security guards' reaction was different than the monks' reaction? Of course it was. What do you think the security guards' reaction was? To capture her, right? And in part, in fairness to them, they're trying to keep this public space safe, and they're trying to respect this beautiful work of art. But they also came with the energy, a different kind of energy than the monks did. And so they were going to arrest the woman. And the monks they were not perturbed by it at all. They assured the officials that they would start over, impermanence. They would start over, that it was no big deal. I would find it a big deal if I were sitting on the floor for hours, because I've got growth to do. And maybe you have some growth to do as well. They said to the reporters, "We don't feel any negativity. We don't know how to judge her motivations. We don't know how to judge her motivations. We pray for her with love and compassion." To the monks, that first mandala, however far along in its process it was, had served its purpose. It was impermanent. It's impermanent to begin with, because when they're all said and done, they leave it up for a while and then they blow it away. Impermanence. Do you get a feel for that? When we can embrace, you can't hold on to impermanence. When we can embrace the idea of impermanence, it helps us to deal with the inevitable changes that will come into our life. Some of the changes that come into our life we love, and they're going to be impermanent. And some of the changes that come into our life are really, really hard to handle. And we want to do everything we possibly can to resist them or to push them away. Yes, take whatever action you can when things are difficult. Take whatever action you can, whatever mindful action you can. And when things are wonderful and beautiful, embrace that with love and gratitude and appreciation and hold it all lightly. Because this too shall pass. This too shall pass. That was my mantra in my pregnancies that were very difficult. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. Frank writes in the book, impermanence is not a theory, it is a fact. When we deeply realize that everything changes, we stop gripping so tightly. We learn to appreciate things for what they are right now. Jack Kornfield said, the trouble is, you think you have time. Whoa. Whoa, the trouble is, you think you have time. You may not know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Third idea is the danger of the someday habit, right? The someday habit. Frank writes about this in the book, and I think I've experienced it on a much smaller scale, that people rarely regret what they did toward the end of their life. If you sit with people who know that their expiration date is not too far out, and they start talking about their life, very seldom do people regret as much what they did as they regret what they didn't do. The forgiveness they didn't extend. The chances that they didn't take. The service that they could have provided but they didn't. The amends that they could have made but they didn't. The love and patience and understanding that they could have given, but they didn't. The encouragement, the acceptance that they could have given, but they didn't. Frank writes, at the bedside of the dying, I have never heard anyone say, I wish I spent more time at the office. What they say is, I wish I had loved more fully. I wish I had risked more. I wish I hadn't waited. One of the things that happens, I think, is we mature spiritually. Maturity to me, especially emotional maturity and spiritual maturity, are little connected to the number of candles on our birthday cake. There are plenty of people who have lots of candles on their birthday cake and are still struggling to mature emotionally and spiritually, and there are plenty of folks who are young and they are emotionally and spiritually mature. One of the results as we continue to mature emotionally and spiritually is the way that we look at life, the way that we look at one another, the way that we look at whatever is in our path. We look with wisdom. We look with the long view. We look with understanding. We look with compassion. We are less fluttered and upset and easily hooked by the challenging things that happen. It's not that we don't see them, we see them. But we see them and we don't lose our center. We're able to stay centered in the midst of whatever that may be. The someday habit, putting off the thing that is yours to do or be to a day that may or may not come for you. And instead to pull it back to this moment and to make sure that the things that you know are yours to do or say or to work on get done, get your attention. Fourth idea, and this could be not only a whole lesson on its own, excuse me, but could be a series, is the commitment to practice forgiveness. He writes about it in the book. I know it is such an important thing on the spiritual path, and certainly something that comes up as we get older. We begin to reflect back and think about the things maybe that we need to either ask for forgiveness or to give for forgiveness. The commitment to practicing forgiveness heals us by allowing us to set down the old pain. to set it down. It's about us. It's not about the other person. That's such an important thing to really get clear with. And it helps us to open to love. When we are bottled up with unforgiveness, no matter how justified it might seem to be or actually be, in the end, it is we who are the ones that are going to be suffering and hurting the most. He writes, the refusal to forgive is a way we resist life. We can be very loyal to our suffering, he writes. Yet when we cling tightly to our past, we hold on to not just the memories, but also the tension and the emotional states that go along with them. Forgiveness allows us to let go of pain, not by sugarcoating it with positive thoughts, but by allowing our experience to come forward so that we can touch our pain with mercy. We don't have to let old hurts continue to define who we are in the here and now. We can let the past dissolve. We can leave it behind. We can say goodbye to old wounds. By forgiving, we can release ourselves from suffering that has been confining us ever since the event took place. Doesn't say that it's easy. It is necessary. I want to just touch very, very quickly, just name them, things that we don't need to have in order to forgive. You don't need and I don't need an apology from the other person in order to forgive. It might be really nice, but we actually don't need it to forgive because it's our work. It's not the other person's work. We don't need to forget what happened. I don't think we should forget, quite honestly. I think we learn. We don't need to forget what happened. We don't need to condone it. We don't need reconciliation. It's nice if we get it, but we don't need it because the forgiveness is something we're doing inside of ourselves to unhook ourselves from the recycling of the pain over whatever the thing was. And we don't need to welcome the person back in our life. In some cases, we may want to, and in some cases, it's like, that's done. That's done. Take a breath. Yeah. And then the last, and I love this way of looking at it, the power of small now over big later. If you're taking notes or using the cards we have for you on the tables in front, it might be worth taking home with you. The power of small now over big later. Sometimes people think, he writes about this, that sometimes people think don't wait means quit your job, sell your house, leave your family, and go to Bali. Nothing wrong with Bali. It could mean that, but it's not likely that it needs to be that. More often than not, don't wait means a small shifts in attention. The small shifts in the way we choose to live our lives. The teeny tiny incremental changes we choose to make and sustain. It could be the choice to really listen when your loved one is talking to you, to put your phone completely away and out of sight. It could be to hold yourself to be a person who refuses to gossip. It could, I don't know what it is for you, and it could be many things, but little things that you practice. Hold this as a vision because I think it's a clear vision for this idea of small now over big later. Advocating for the small changes we make now that we can continue with consistency have long-term enormous effect. Think of a ship in a harbor that is setting out to sea. And think that as it sets out to sea, it makes a course adjustment of just 1 degree. And it sets out to sea. 1 degree different from what it was originally going to do. In port, it is unlikely at all that you would even be able to tell that it has made that 1 degree shift, right? because the 1 degree is still so close to the line that it was originally on, right? Are you following me? But what happens when it goes out to sea? You know this from your basic geometry classes that we all took. It's going to get further and further and, right, Kitty, further and further, bigger distance, bigger change. The changes that can feel so small and insignificant to us now as we do them, if we do them consistently, they're going to have a powerful positive effect on our life. A powerful positive effect on our life. Don't wait. Don't wait. Say that with me. Don't wait. Hold your hand on your heart. Sometimes it's good to make that connection. Close your eyes for just a moment. I imagine there might be something that you have been waiting on or putting off. I don't know what it is. And even as I say that, maybe something comes to your mind that you hadn't thought about for a while. Just silently or quietly say to that, I'm not going to wait. Together, I'm not going to wait. Namaste.